A poem found in a bottle pulled out of the near div at the Greyhawk docks. Once in a Bellport tavern I did chance to meet a wanderer rare, who turned on me his sightless eye, and pierced me with its sullen stare. "Take pity, fellow salt," he said, as clod things crawled from out his beard. "Stake me an ale and a loaf of bread, in thanks your fate's less foul and weird. Once a ship the pearl sea I saw, and the stormy ocean further on. I spied the strait of Amun-Ra, and the sea-meased cliffs by the light of dawn. I turned thunder's horn and lived to tell, crossed the gulf of Ishtar calm and dark, and weighing anchor strode upon the wretched, hateful lands of Thark. I knew the country not when we left port, else I'd have stayed home in Greyhawk town, nor of the glorious temple court where the sea maiden stands with spear and crown. My foolish shipmate a prize did steal from Melora's hewn menagerie. Unthinking of our common weal, he plundered the driftwood effigy. Meagre and rough that wooden thing, I thought it humble, poor and plain, but it was Melora's offering, and Togenaida his cursed name. Our voyage home damned by his sin, the poor bastard was the first to drown, and betrayed by all with gill or fin, the first of many ships went down. 5 times shipwrecked now am I. No crew will take my work or curse, until idol returned, or man should die, and Melora's fathomless ire reverse. So the bent parched navigator unspooled his tale of woe to me, but I looked not for a commentator, and I had no coin to pay his fee. If you follow the ashen path out from Dead Man's Cross, you will find the House of Black Lanterns. There, if you're willing to wager that which you cannot imagine losing, you stand to win the very stuff of dreams. Of course, if the tables don't suit your interest, the house also offers some of the finest dining, entertainment, and lodging in all the Shadowfell, thanks to the efforts of its unparalleled, if eccentric, staff. Welcome to the Chimera, a role-playing adventure podcast. Our current game is the House of Black Lanterns, which takes place in the venerable campaign setting of Greyhawk, but kind of off to the side a bit, and which we play using Simple World by Avery Alder, a pared-down version of Apocalypse World built to allow players to easily create their own powered by the Apocalypse hacks. I'm Vin LeBate, and I'll be playing Lizzie, the bartender. Joining me this week are Kacey Smith as Elodia, the entertainer, Braden Lamb as Zani, the concierge, and Kelly Wiseman-Ashbooth-Jackson, the game master. Before we start, I just want to thank you all for sticking with us for the past couple of months. Things are still a little messy, so the update schedule will continue to be a bit erratic for the next month or two, but we've got some really neat stuff in the pipeline, and I can't wait for y'all to hear it. Now, let's get started.
Braden, out of curiosity, what have you done with that object from the last game?
It was, I was going to circle back around to that as well. It's in the, what did I call it? The guest vault in just a currently unused locker. And I had sent off a moth messenger to a fence that I know, asking for an appraisal,
right?
And like a lead on a buyer.
Actually, that raises a question about this moth communication system.
Mm-hmm.
Who has access to it, and what is it for?
Zani has access to this pretty exclusively, I feel like, and it's just so that he can arrange he can communicate with other services off-site in order to like facilitate tours and whatever else they might need. Maybe the head chef has, that'll be Cadwin, right?
Yep.
Cadwin probably also has one of these little moth cabinets in the kitchen.
Okay, but it's
for ordering.
It's assigned then. So there's like if she has access to it, it'd be a separate system. It wouldn't be they both have access to the same system.
Yeah.
They're essentially different terminals is what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so I'd say that the proprietor is going to have access to any of these things no matter what. But
sure.
if that's the idea, then so
it's basically so that Zani never has to leave. Whether he can or not otherwise is yet to be determined. Okay.
There may or may not be other people within the house who would have one of these things. But the idea is that the cabinet is unique. Unique to him. So
yeah, I kind of figured, like, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 of these in the house at most, and only like the head of a particular department would have access to it.
Makes sense. So it sounds like it's really for his use, or for whoever's the person whose it is. It's for their use, for sort of doing their job in ways that relate to things outside of the bounds of the house. Second question, if someone wants to communicate with a guest, or a guest wants to communicate with the outside, right? What do we think that looks like?
They probably contact the concierge and...
I think that's what happens, is a moth comes in, and Zani deciphers the weird hallucinatory patterns on its wings that are the message.
Okay, so all that communication is going to flow through him. Is that the idea?
For guest services, yes.
So he's also kind of the telephone operator. I mean, not exactly the telegraph operator, basically, for the house. All right, so there's about to be something happening in the herb garden. Lizzie came in just in time to have missed everything happening, but Elodia, I would say that from your place in the lounge, you could definitely see GMV walk off in the same direction that Ziwei Cheng went.
Yeah. He left a little faster than she had hoped. She was going to try and like open with a song from Tabaxian Homeland.
I really thought you were just going to say Cats.
I think by the time...
yes, topical.
That's racist. But I think by the time she gets back up on stage and the lights dim a little and all that, he's probably like leaving or has just left. So there's sort of a brief flicker of like, crap, but she doesn't say that because she's a professional. So she...
Reminiscences by themselves in the nighttime.
The real question is, does anyone here know any other lines from any song from Cats?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know some of McCavity.
Yep. Mr. Mistopheles. Yeah, I know more than I should, but I was into it as a kid. So she will introduce the juggler, who is pretty good. And
question, is it a skeleton who is juggling their own ribs?
Oh, no, because then he'd fall down. It is a skeleton, but he has 2 extra arms. So it's actually kind of a
Does
buddy
he just
act.
have an assistant? Yeah.
Well, it's like, you know how like when you put your hands behind your back and then someone sticks their arms through and they're your arms? It's like that, except the arms are actually on him, but like the other guy is controlling them. So there's 4 arms, and 2 of them are a little bit comic relief, and 2 of them are actually doing the juggling. And so it's, him and his partner are kind of, razzing each other back and forth. And every so often, one of the hands that isn't actually his will like give a chin a flick or like do something to kind of inconvenience him, but then he is able to continue to juggle through it.
But these arms explicitly belong to another skeleton. Like there's another skeleton standing there with no arms.
Yeah, there's another skeleton standing there with no arms.
Okay. All right.
And he's basically just like heckling the other guy, or like they have like these exchanges back and forth that are kind of in that vein. And then every so often his arms cause like an amusing inconvenience that makes it further illustrate his skill as a juggler.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of their deal. And I have to think of a good name for them, but I don't have one yet.
All right.
So that goes on, and it's about a 20-minute act. So it gives her enough time to kind of slip out and head towards the herb garden, which she's going to do because she is absolutely not going to miss whatever is about to go down over there. Also, there are some of the herbs that she would like to at least get a couple clippings of in case they get completely demolished.
Okay. So Zani is headed towards the herb garden, right?
Yes.
And Elodia separately is headed towards the herb garden.
Yeah, although are there multiple doors or they end up kind of bumping shoulders?
I think there's a bunch of different doors, and given the fact that she has to do this thing of introducing the juggling act, even if they're using the same door, it's not going to be at the same time.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what happens. We've established the spatial relationships in the house are actually not, strictly speaking, standardized, right? And the different people who work here have more or less luck in going where they want to at different times. So Zani used the same door that both GMV and Ziwei Cheng left through, and that definitely the intuitive door that he would have used in this situation to try and get where he was going. But in going through that door, you end up back, Zani ends up back in his office where the moth cabinet is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, I don't know, like, does the moth just hang out, or is there a light? What indicates that there's a message, basically?
Let's see. I'll say there is a lantern just outside the window.
Mm-hmm.
And a new message is just a moth fluttering around that lantern.
Gotcha. Okay, so there's a moth fluttering around the lantern.
Okay.
Actually, there's 2 moths fluttering around the lantern.
Ooh.
He'll bring them in and read them in no particular order.
Okay.
Unless one of them looks particularly green.
Would that mean something?
I don't know. Green, I guess, would indicate urgency.
I would say they're both equally green. Do you... Odds or evens, Braden?
Odds.
Odds. Okay. I'm going to say that this fence that Zani knows.
Mm-hmm.
Zani knows this fence, but not super well.
Yeah.
So, this message is from the fence. Urgent, confidential, to Grimdark Mountbatten V.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that there's any... I mean, so now my understanding of the system is, in order to get the message to the guest, Zani has to read it, right? Can say confidential all you want, but it's not getting anywhere except through him, right?
Right. Yeah.
So...
Yeah, so I'll read that one first.
The artifact you are looking for is in the House of Black Lanterns in the possession of the concierge.
Oh. Okay. Zani says to himself, well, I think I have some idea of what the content of the other moth is. He reads it anyway.
Yeah, the other moth says, what you have is very valuable and very dangerous. You should keep it hidden, and I will reach out to you again when I have a buyer arranged.
Is it secret? Is it safe?
Right, but like if at the same time Gandalf was going to sell out Bilbo to...
to the ring wraiths?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I know a very kind gentleman all in black. You will know him by his dripping horse.
I think Dirtbag Gandalf would be an interesting spin on Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, so he's looking for it. Do I give it to him? Is this the... Okay, so he's Also, is this something that he has taken from the August Depository? Huh.
What does this thing look like? This sculpture?
I believe we said that it was wooden and it combined elements of a turtle and a fish. That's my recollection.
That does sound right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I need to remove this sculpture from its locker, secret it in one of the folds of my sleeves, and go and attend to the matter in the herb garden.
Okay. So you are in the process of doing that. Meanwhile, Elodia heads out through the same door Zani just went through. And Elodia is close behind him, right? Not more than a minute behind him. At the same time that she's going through that door, Eberk Torbera, the dwarf who came up earlier, who was admiring Elodia's singing, is also leaving the bar area through that particular door. They are almost shoulder to shoulder. And when they go through the door, it leads not out into the corridor she was expecting, but connects directly into the main floor of the casino. So this is our first look at the casino. The casino space is vast. It is the largest single room in the entire complex, larger than the main entryway or any of the ballrooms. It is full of just a vast throng of people, more than a dozen different gaming tables, people playing Three Dragon Ante, at least 2 different wheel games, an area where there seems to be a small racetrack on which they are racing tiny, like very small mice.
Small mice.
Very small. It's confined. It's highly controlled. It's a racetrack the size of a roulette table. Right? There's something that it probably isn't exactly craps, but from a distance it looks like craps. So all these different things going on. Lots of moving about. People mostly in relatively fancy dress. This is kind of the classiest area of the establishment. And lots of different employees presiding over this game or that game. Here and there, there's a zombie pit boss keeping their eyes on everything. And at the center of it all is the manager of the casino. She's sort of standing towards the middle of the room, and Elodia locks eyes with her from across the space because she's just constantly aware of everything around. And when Elodia shows up and clearly doesn't expect to be stepping onto the floor of the casino, that alerts something in her, and she looks at Elodia. They sort of connect for a second. The manager of the casino is called the Grakenstrix. She is also a Kenku, so another one of these raven people, dressed in a very fancy and sort of haute couture and elaborate and obviously expensive dress, red and black. The Grakenstrix also, by the way, just because another major employee of the casino, everybody knows this, she is a Kenku, but she's also a vampire. So she's a blood-drinking Kenku.
So does she have teeth? How does that work?
She can use a cup.
Let's save that for if it comes up on screen. So, as I say, Elodia sort of stumbled out into the casino. Now, Eberk, who came through the doorway at the same time as Elodia, clearly is exactly where he wanted to be, and he sort of toddles off to one of the gaming tables, and it's the whatever the dice game that's sort of like craps is, and starts. He puts down some chips and starts wagering. Gets into it. He's into the casino time.
So Elodia is briefly annoyed. This probably has happened to her a couple times before, where 2 people want to go to 2 different places and it doesn't pick her place. So her initial response is really that she's just going to turn around and go back through the door and see if it takes her back to the lounge and if she can kind of try it again.
Oh, okay. Okay, so she goes back into the lounge, turns around again, and tries the door again.
Right.
All right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so she does that. And the second time works. And she's on the right corridor. And then she goes to the second door that's out off premises outside the actual walls of the building and steps out into the herb and vegetable garden where so she's standing in the doorway, like on the threshold between the house proper and this section of garden. It's, as I said, it's like herbs and vegetables. Mainly, there are also a few sort of decorative plantings to make the whole space look more manicured. There are rows between the raised beds in which all the edible vegetables are planted, and there's also some clear space sort of in the middle of everything. Not a huge amount, but a decent, clear, manicured lawn type area in the middle. And in that space, Grimdark Mountbatten V and Ziwei Chang are circling each other, weapons drawn. Again, Ziwei Chang has this big spiky mace. Grimdark has this enormous battle axe. They're clearly, about to throw down.
Does she interfere? And she's the first one. I guess she's the first one.
Definitely the first one. Yep.
So she's going to approach close enough that she's, visible to the two would-be combatants. And she's going to say, "Gentlemen." So,
she approaches. There's some shouting back and forth.
Oh, okay.
You broke the seal on the 10th Noble Vault. I didn't take anything. You know that I didn't take anything. It was an honest mistake. That's the back and forth.
Okay, so yeah, she's going to say, "Gentlemen."
Yeah, sure. They both turn their heads just enough to be looking at both the other person and her at the same time.
This sounds to me like a disagreement that may not be worth the complete destruction of our herb garden and injury to one or both parties. Is there any other option besides whacking one another with large objects that will give you a satisfactory resolution to your disagreement?
Ziwei Chang says the honor of the August Depository needs to be repaid. The account needs to be balanced. His destruction, or, he thinks for a second, moderate maiming would be the easiest route to that resolution.
But that suggests that it is not the only one.
Grimdark says, these crazy bankers think they have some sort of claim over me, even though I didn't take anything that was theirs. And I got away. If they were going to do something, if they were going to blame me or try me, you can take me to court in the Celestial Imperium, but we're not in the Celestial Imperium right now. There's some more bickering back and forth. A couple of swings and feints. Nobody's connected yet.
Mm-hmm. In what other ways would, this is to Ziwei Chang, in what other ways would the August repository be satisfied?
Well, if the malefactor were to confess to the error of his ways and seek to make amends for he sort of ducks and dodges and moves to the left to avoid several swings from Grimdark's axe. Make amends for his crimes against the depository and against its clients. It's possible my master would entertain some sort of repayment scheme.
Question: Who gave Pix the sculpture? Was it somebody from the Augusta Depository, or was it just kind of somebody?
The person who gave Pix the sculpture as a tip was a noble of indeterminate national origin. I don't think we established where they were from. It was like this entourage that had stayed in the hotel and was leaving.
Mm-hmm. That's all.
So Elodia asks GMV, is that something you would entertain?
He brings his axe down hard again, missing Ziwei Chang, and then ducks a blow from Ziwei Chang's mace and yanks the axe up out of the earth and spins around, deflects another blow, sort of twirls back a couple of steps to give him some breathing room, and says, "Do I look like the type of person who apologizes?"
Yeah, okay. So she kind of considers, as they're doing this sort of display of battle prowess without actually quite killing one another yet. What was the insult that he caused? I don't think I can be much help until I understand the situation.
I want to cut back to the bar for a second. Vin, are you satisfied with Lizzie's place in the bar, or is she going to make any other attempts to get involved here? Good either way. I just wanted to make sure I didn't leave you out accidentally.
I think she's a little bit concerned. I think what she does is she goes over to the table with the twins, bringing them a pitcher of a cocktail that she's devised since they started staying here, which is loquat juice and a little elderflower syrup and some grenadine for color. Did either of you happen to notice what happened with the concierge and the tabaxi gentleman that were here?
The girl looks up from their game of solitaire. They have the entire deck. They've just finished a round. They have basically the entire deck laid out in front of them, and says, "My brother saw the tall monster leave through that door." And then she goes back looking at the cards. And the boy looks up again and says, "My sister saw the cat man leave through that door." Points the same direction. And then they both look up and say, "And we saw the masked man and the lady who sings also went through that door." Again, pointing at the same place.
Would either of you, if you don't mind me asking, have applied the phrase hell-bent on violence to the situation?
They look at each other. Now, they don't usually look at each other. Right? They're usually sort of taking turns looking at different places. Even when they're playing cards with each other, they're focused on the cards and not as much on each other. But they look at each other, and then they look back at Lizzie, and the girl says, "My brother and I agree. We would never use a phrase like that. But the tall monster and the cat man both had very large, heavy weapons."
All right, thank you, loves. I'm going to talk to the kitchen and see if I can have them make up some ice cream for tomorrow.
They both seem quite pleased by that. Like, they both smile and actually clap a little bit in that way that young children sometimes do.
So she smiles and nods, heads back to the bar, wakes up the assistant bartender again, picks up her blunderbuss, and heads out the door.
All right. Lizzie heads out the door. She doesn't encounter any spatial connection problems. And as she is heading out the second door into the garden, she ends up sort of being shoulder to shoulder with Zani coming from the opposite direction to the same place. So they sort of both arrive at the garden at this moment together.
Oh, we're going to have to deal with this, aren't we?
I believe that Elodia had just asked, like, what happened? What is the thing that happened? What's the
right?
And
so she's sort of talking to these two circling combatants.
The question was to Ziwei Chang, but it's Grimdark who actually answers first and says, "I got hired to do a job. I did that job rather well. He's just butthurt that it made him and his dumb bank look bad. And, Ziwei Cheng's eyes sort of narrow to slits, which is weird because, again, his eyes are kind of creepily like open all the time. So being expressive with his eyes is even weirder on this kind of rictus mask face of his.
Mm-hmm.
Says, if you did it so well, how can that be when you admit that you didn't actually take anything? And GMV responds, because the thing that I was supposed to steal wasn't there. They go back to swinging at each other.
I imagine they're kind of making a mess of things.
Oh, yeah. No, one of them gets knocked back onto a bed of leeks, rolls off, and then the other one takes out half of a patch of holy basil, and it's a mess.
Lizzie fires her blunderbuss into the air. Gentlemen, I've got to make a batch of mimosas in the morning, and I can't have you mangling my mint like this. So how about we take a seat and chat it out before things have to get a little louder? Do you want me to make a roll for that?
Yeah, that sounds good. What's...
It's a fierce roll?
Yeah, it's a fierce roll.
I'm going to say that I can add 1 for being big.
Yeah.
At least compared to one of them.
Well, I mean, yeah. So I'm not sure I'm going to give you the point for the big, but you are using a blunderbuss.
Yeah.
So you definitely get 1 for that.
All right. Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, I rolled a 2.
Ooh-wee.
My fierce is 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
So but you mean you rolled a natural 2?
Yep.
Okay.
That's gotta hoit.
Yeah.
So you fire off the blunderbuss. Gentlemen, say your cool line. They do stop for a second, and they both look at you and directly at you, and they're not looking at each other, right? And it seems like maybe it's going to work. And just after you're done talking, something large, like certainly on the order of size of Lizzie herself. So I guess smaller, large, but not like large compared to Ziwei Cheng, but large.
Second largest thing in the space.
Falls out of the sky and lands between her and where the fight is going on. Actually, just wrecks the entire there's like one planter that's kohlrabi and 2 other things, and it wrecks all the kohlrabi. And it's these raised beds, right? So the wood frame breaks and the soil starts to pour out. It's this crumpled mass of like leathery flesh and some bone and like a crazy long beak thing. Apparently some kind of like a zombie pterodactyl situation. Or in some way undead. Let's not commit to being zombie. In some way fit corporeal undead with flesh intact. Pterodactyl.
Okay.
So that's like shocking and weird. But it also seems to sort of like break the intimidation factor, right? They're like, oh, we're focused on this other person. Oh, but now this nuts thing just happened. And once that's broken, they just turn back towards each other and start to go at it again.
All right. Can I make an entrance?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
On top of a topiary shaped like a naga, Zani materializes, holding aloft the statue, and says, "Honored guests."
So GMV's attention like turns and swerves as soon as Zani shows up holding the statue. Ears perk up, becomes very focused. That's enough to give Ziwei Cheng a opening to get him squarely in the back of the head and knocking him down. He's not out, but he gets like very solidly hit in that moment of distraction when his attention is taken over by the statue.
Ziwei Cheng, my good sir.
I'll be through in a moment. He raises he's going into he's moving towards a coup de grace. Whether he's going to pull it off or not.
Okay.
I'm not saying, but he's definitely moving in the direction of like, okay, I got this handle now. I'm going to crush this guy.
All right. I'm going to try to interpose, like jump in the way and just holds this statue right in his face. A question for you. Would the August Depository be interested in acquiring an item such as this?
He's got his mace over his head. Doesn't take it down, but also doesn't swing it when Sonny's in his way.
I have it on good authority that this is a very rare and powerful item. It would be wise to consult with your masters about the possibility of adding this to your treasuries, I believe. But I am just your humble servant. Let me try that Stygian obsequiousness. You have a near supernatural ability to placate, pacify, ingratiate, and schmooze. When interacting with guests in a professional capacity, roll weird instead of charm. I've got a weird +2. Here goes.
Yep, that
okay.
Sounds good. Sounds like a good roll.
Hey, 9 + 2, 11.
Yeah.
Damn, someone
Very
succeeded at something in this game.
Okay. Yeah, that's very successful. He looks at the item and says, all right. I can tell that you're being truthful about the value of this item. It's a serious enough matter that you're correct. My master should be informed. I assume you're offering it for the life of this cat?
I am offering it as the prize in a game of chance between the two of you. He turns to Grimdark and says, my good sir, I believe this item is of particular interest to you.
His eyes flash, and he says, I'll take that arrangement. He's down on the ground. I mean, he's clearly on the back foot here, but he's not acting like it, right? He's sort of too cool for school about the fact that he's about to be pummeled to death. Ziwei Chang lowers his mace and says, as I said, I will consult with my master. If he agrees to your terms, then we'll play a game.
Excellent. And as you know that he addresses Ziwei Chang again. If you do acquire it, as you know that Grimdark Mountbatten V is interested in it, you then also know that he is coming, and you may test your skills and your honor again in a definitive, fair, and, dare I say, exciting match of wits.
Yes. So you seem to have successfully diffused the situation. Ziwei Cheng has to involve Qian Zhuang, but other than that, yeah, we're good for the second at least. It's not, hostilities have ceased. Lizzie, you want to do anything about this pterodactyl?
Is it alive in the sense of moving / have I shot it?
You've definitely shot it. So you approach the sort of crumpled mass. I mean, it's very big, right? So you think about the pterodactyl, right? It's a lot of material. Most of that material is spread very thin, so it's not, it doesn't take up a conventional amount of space. But now it's crumpled to the ground. At first, it's sort of hard to tell: is this thing alive or animate at least, or not anymore? Eventually, some sort of peer at it. You can see that it is slightly ambulatory, although badly damaged. You can see that the blunderbuss shot blew out a big section of its abdomen. It is some kind of undead, some kind of fleshy undead.
Is it something? Like, is it the kind of thing that we might see in the skies around here, or?
Oh, that'd be pretty unusual. You definitely... No, I can't say you definitely, because you got a crazy backstory. It's not... The House of Black Lanterns moves around. It's in lots of different places, lots of different times. This would be an extreme corner case by any measure. A flying animal? Sure. A undead flying animal? Yes. This type of flying animal? It is I'm going to say Lizzie has probably seen something like this live before, back in her spacefaring days. But that is it. Definitely has not seen an animal at all like this since she's been, since the ship crashed.
Okay. Then she's going to approach it cautiously, saying things like, "Oh dear, oh I'm so sorry. I didn't realize there was anyone up there." And she's just going to try and get like a read on it in vis-a-vis hostility and or survivability.
Okay. If it's hostile, it is so badly injured that hostility seems relevant, right? It is moving, but barely moving.
Okay.
It makes very faint noises, almost something like somewhere between the chirping of a bird and the croaking of a frog. Not, if it's a language, it's way far away from anything Lizzie speaks, but it sounds more like an animal noise.
Okay.
And as she sort of like moves around it and it's kind of like inspecting it, she can see that there was like a net bag that it was holding. It's mostly that the bag and its contents are mostly underneath the crumpled mass at this point because it fell down.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's holding it, fell down. It's mostly covering that. But once she moves around and it's sort of moving a little bit too, it's clear that the contents of the bag are glowing. And so that affects its ability to, it like makes it obvious that there's something underneath it. Right.
Okay. Lizzie glances over at Zani and Elodia and says, "All right, I think you lot have this situation in hand. I am going to deal with this situation." And she sort of like hoists it and like definitely makes a point to take the bag in one hand and is going to head in the direction of the stables to, which I presume we have because people come to visit and they come with all sorts of different creatures, to talk to the stable master about some veterinary care.
Okay. So she hoists it up on one shoulder. She hoists the bag. The bag has 4 very large, like ostrich scale eggs in it that glow with a dim blue-white light.
Who's shipping? And she's just talking to herself as she's walking towards the stable. Who's shipping magic eggs via lizard bird in the middle of the... Oh, this is going to take days to sort out. Oh, and off she goes.
Okay, that's happening. Braden, do you have an intention about what this game is?
Nope. I haven't quite got that far.
Okay.
However, I did want to also pose how the other win scenario will work out. Mm-hmm. He has their attention. He hasn't quite thought this fully out, so he's kind of just sort of rattling off all the things that they can enjoy, the drinks, the music while they're waiting to start up a game. This is all stuff that he can rattle off while he's giving himself time to think. He looks over at the pterodactyl briefly and says, "A bat with a triangle for a head?" And then turns back to Grimdark and says, "Grimdark, if you win, I can see to it that this is delivered safely to your employer, and a portion of your proceeds go to satisfy the honor of Ziwei Chang. Then the August Depository will be, you will no longer be in their debt, hopefully." I don't know if this will... Me, Braden, had not actually thought all of this through. Should I roll like a little clever or something here? I don't know.
So, I'm sorry. The idea is that they're not actually going to play for ownership exactly?
Yeah.
So, okay, so I apologize. Maybe I'm just being thick. If the August Depository agents win, they get what?
They get the statue and the knowledge that Grimdark Mountbatten V is coming for it again, and they can have a proper, honorable match of wits.
Okay. And if Grimdark Mountbatten V wins, then the statue gets delivered, his contract gets paid out, but a percentage of it goes to the August Depository.
Yeah.
Okay. So probably he doesn't like that deal, but he's also kind of screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Since now this object is really... Before he was just looking for the object on the grounds, right? It could have been anywhere. It could have been with a guest. It could have been with a member of the staff, but not in an official capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Now it sounds like this is a house matter, right? We've involved the game of chance now.
Mm-hmm.
He's not in a position really to turn down. He can walk away from the wager, but he doesn't get the object.
Yeah.
So he's just, his back's to the wall. He's going to agree to it. Ziwei Chang reappears with his boss, with Qian Zhuang, and Qian Zhuang. Ziwei Chang does most of the talking for them in public. Qian Zhuang now sort of seems to be taking, now things are more official. It's more about depository business. It says, we agree to the terms of this settlement, provided the House will guarantee that the wager will be honored in any case.
As surely as the sun does not rise in the Shadowfell.
Sounds good. Elodia, do you want to do anything here?
I mean, it seems like it's gone yay. People aren't bashing each other, so she's pleased. She's a little bit, she looks a bit mournfully at the kohlrabi. She was sort of looking forward to having some of that. But I think at this point, she probably needs to peek in on what's going on in the lounge. Mm-hmm. So as things seem pretty well in hand, and as the resolution, whatever the game is ultimately going to be, doesn't seem to be starting like this moment, she's going to kind of slip back kind of around the goo spot left by the fallen undead pterodactyl thing, and head back through the door that she expects to take her into the lounge. But
okay, she makes her way back to the lounge very easily. There's no spatial issue doing that. The show proceeds. She makes it back in time. Her absence is not really felt. Mm-hmm. She puts the next act on. There's some time for all this to unspool, right? Ziwei Chang has to go get Qian Zhuang. There has to be some agreement made, but that's enough time for one or two more acts to happen. Mm-hmm. And then the show's not done yet, but there's sort of a murmur that goes through the crowd in the lounge, in the bar area. And people start filtering out, ones and twos. And then eventually there's just not like a stampede, but a pretty quick rush towards the doors. It's clearly, there's a commotion about something big is about to happen in the casino and people want to see it.
Okay. So once people are kind of leaving, she'll cut the show a little short, like probably just wrap it up before the last act goes on, make it up to them later. And she's also going to head to the casino because it seems like this is all going to go down and it's interesting.
Yeah, so people, like I said, people clear out, so it's easy for her to wrap things up and follow them. In the casino, play has been temporarily halted at the various games of chance. Doesn't happen often, but it does occasionally. Most often, the reason for that is that the proprietor is on the floor and someone has come to wager something that they can only wager against with the proprietor. Mm-hmm. In this case, that's not the key. The proprietor is not in attendance, but the Grakenstrix, the casino manager, is there at a small table in the middle of the gaming floor. Qian Zhuang and Ziwei Cheng are on one side of the table. Grimdark Mountbatten V is on the other side of the table. She stands in between them, so like sort of the T, right? And I think Zani is going to be there standing beside the Grackenstrix, holding the totem, this carved wooden image.
Mm-hmm.
By mutual agreement between both parties, the possession of this item is to be determined by a game of chance. The wheel and the dice having been declined, high card draw will determine the outcome. She has a new deck of 3 Dragon Ante cards. She opens the pack, takes it out, shuffles them a few times in impressive fashion, which is especially impressive for a Kenku, right? Mm-hmm. For like a creature that doesn't even really have thumbs.
So Azani is being very studiously quiet and still, having just been chewed out by the Grackenstrix for not consulting her on this on the wages of the stakes of this game.
And there's no margin for the house in this? What were you thinking? This is not anywhere near your mandate. She gestures towards Grimdark. The first draw goes to you. I'm only going to ask here if anybody tries to do anything on the off chance you want to try and intervene in a game of chance at the house. Otherwise, it's just going to unfold, right?
I'm not even in the room.
Okay. Yes, you're off finding out about zombie pterodactyls and ghost eggs. Hearing none. Grimdark draws the card at the top of the deck and draws a red dragon. Very high value card. Difficult to beat. He looks smug, folds his arms, waits for the draw from the opposite side of the table. It's Qian Zhuang who's going to be doing the drawing here because he's the senior depository agent present. He draws the card. He looks at the card. He smiles. Again, their smiles are horrifying. And he places it down on the table. It is the Chimera card.
I knew it.
So Grimdark throws up his hands and says, all right, well, I guess we have an appointment for a later date then.
So for all of us, is the Chimera card, was it a thing? Is it a thing?
Sure.
Okay.
That's standard card. It's like as normal as what Grimdark drew.
Okay.
So that's the outcome on the gaming floor. Things are fairly well resolved. Having lost, Grimdark is encouraged to leave. Right? The agreement was that he would have another shot at getting this item, but not while it's here.
Mm-hmm.
He'll have to find it again. So he collects his things and departs the premises. Qian Zhuang and Ziwei Cheng, of course, remain. So let's close this up by cutting over to the stables where Lizzie took the crashed pterodactyl and its sack of eggs. The stable master is a female tiefling. Miritha is her name. You come into the stables. She is just finishing up a conversation with the ghost horse from the ball. Yes, that is a very interesting point about the cosmic implications of the relative distance of the astral sea.
Beg your pardon, Mary. I've got a bit of a thing here.
Yeah, you sure do, Lizzie. All right, sit it down. It's still moving?
Yeah, I don't know that it was alive before it got shot, and so I'm not sure how alive it's supposed to be now. And it's got some eggs, but I don't think that they're the eggs that come from this thing. I think they're a separate set of eggs because I think it's like a carrier beast. Or just a person with a bag? I'm really not sure. Do these look like regular eggs to you?
I mean, no.
Right, that's what I thought.
Well, the whole situation's very strange. I suppose we don't want it to, not die, but,
Yeah, I'm not sure if it belongs to someone.
Well, if it does, they'll probably come looking for it, and then my brother will have to deal with it. Maritha's brother is the proprietor of the House of Black Lanterns.
Ooh.
And I think we'll close there.
That's it this week for the Chimera. Our theme music is Hoof, Heart, and Hiss by Matt Weber. You can find a link to more of Matt's work and any other music used in this episode in the show notes. You can support the show by going to patreon.com/chimerapod, or by leaving us a rating on your favorite podcast app, or just by telling a friend. We'll be back with a new episode in 2 weeks, but if you want to see what we're up to in the meantime, you can find us online at thechimera.space or on Twitter or Facebook at chimerapod. Thanks for listening.
Unless somebody has something burning that they want to do or establish.
I just wanted to know how the lungfish went south today.
How did the lungfish go south today? We came in after the lungfish went south.
Right.
Right? Because this started after that. So it's academic, but like earlier in the night, Ziwei Cheng would have come down, put in the order that he puts in every night. He got it. They went back up to the room, and then he brought the tray back down, and that was the remnants of their 2 chicken dinners again.
Right.
So how did it go wrong tonight? I would say tonight there was supposed to be a delivery that included the lungfish, and they were beset by bandits, and they arrived, but having lost one of their carts, and the cart that included the cart that had the lungfish in it.
Cool.
Oh, okay. Here I am. It's been really spotty for me. Hi. Are we done?